Welcome, everyone, to today's edition of Insightful Accountants Future Forward event for August. This is Murph, and today's session is a newest edition of my backup app comparison featuring 6 backup solutions for QBO. So we're going to start our first poll, which is, have you heard about Insightful Accountants' new Be Insightful premium content website? Gary, can you launch that poll? Okay, and while that's up, I'm going to tell you a little about Be Insightful. We offer 9 training tracks, including tech stack, app comparisons, migrations, human resources, marketing, business development, and others, led by some of the top trainers in our profession. Members have access to more than 30 CPE credit hours per year, workshops, and a variety of year-round premium content. For example, I just published a white paper last month on how to migrate from QuickBooks Desktop to Sage 50. So Gary, go ahead and close that poll if you would. Now, I also want to give you the super exciting news that next July, we're hosting a 7-night Caribbean working cruise during which you will have time to work on your business in sessions that are curated and led in such a way that you'll walk away with a strategy and execution plan to grow your business to the next level, but also be sufficiently relaxed so as to give you the energy to do that. If you'd like more information about this opportunity to cruise with me, learn a lot, enjoy gourmet meals, and get some recreation and relaxation in the Caribbean sun, then just respond yes to the next poll that we're opening. Will you go ahead and open the poll about cruising with us?
Yeah, and I think we did a big bait and switch. I think we gave the same poll twice. I did not see the poll in there for actual Be Insightful program. So we'll send you information on both if you said yes to either. And then Murph, just FYI, Matt is back online. So
Okay, thanks.
all right.
And so I'm going to move on and we can close that poll. Now, today's webinar is CP eligible, and you have to be here for 50 minutes, and you have to answer at least 3 of the 4 CPE polling questions. If you meet that criteria, then we'll send you a certificate within 24 hours. You'll also receive an email following today's event with a link to the archive, which will be posted to our YouTube channel. And you'll also receive information about how you can download the PDF of today's slide deck. Now, if you have questions during the webinar, please add them to the Q&A, not the chat window. Okay. And I'm having just, okay. And we also have one more poll, and that is we want to know if you plan on attending Intuit Connect October 27 through 29 at the Aria in Las Vegas. Okay, so I think almost 100% of you know me, and hopefully I know most of you. But if not, here is an oh so brief bio that'll be in the PDF of the PowerPoint. We have 4 learning objectives, and I'm not going to take the time to read through them, but all of our polling questions for CPE go hand in hand with these 4 objectives. So, Why did Insightful Accountant commission me to undertake a comparison of backup apps for QBO? Well, we send out questionnaires frequently. We write stories asking you for your input. And one of the primary things that you all ask about is app comparisons. And as it happens, backups were the number three requested form of app comparison. Now, none of the various QBO versions provide a user controlled backup except for QuickBooks Online Advanced. We also know that despite Intuit advertising that that your data is safe, what they do in the way of a backup is designed for their own platform. Presently, there's only one of these six apps that is in the QBO App Store. So, why do you need a QBO backup app? Well, it's simple. Even though you've been told that your QuickBooks Online data is secure and that Intuit has a data backup and recovery plan, that plan is really designed for a system-wide failure, a problem with their platform. It is not designed to give you the ability to restore your data at a moment's notice. Uh, and if you have problems, they're not there to help you with your data. In fact, specifically, they tell you in the software agreement that you're responsible for any lost or unrecoverable content. Intuit is not responsible for the content you submit through their services. A user managed third party backup of your QuickBooks Online data is the only way to protect your accounting data when and if Intuit's QBO platform is breached. That's why you need a third party backup. And so we have seven backups that we're going to talk about. Now, you'll hear me call it seven one time and six another. And you'll notice that there's one of these in red, which was RedStore. When I did my first backup app comparison about 11 months ago, uh, RedStore was an active app solution for backing up QBO. But since then, they have quit offering QBO backups. They're still in the business of backing up SaaS solutions, but no longer QBO, even though they're still backing up for those people who had an active um, subscription with them of QBO. In addition, you'll notice SaaS Assure has been incorporated. In my first backup comparison, I told you that there was a new solution that was out, but it hadn't been out long enough for me to assess it. Well, now it has, and it's included in today's comparison. So we want to know in our next poll, which is the first poll for CPE purposes, which of these backups you currently use. So, Gary, would you or Matt, either one, launch that poll? And you pick from the drop down. And if you don't use any, one of the options is, I believe, none of the above. And we'll give you just a moment to answer that. And then we're going to look and see who is using what. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's close the poll and look at the results. I'm not seeing the results. There they are. Well, most of you are not using any form of backup for QBO. A few of you are using Dropsuite, and the vast majority of you who do have a backup are using Rewind, which is the only solution that's listed in the QBO App Store. All right. So As with many of our other app comparisons, we have settled on a set of 9 comparison factors that have proven to be reliable evaluation rating tools when used to measure the standing for the various detailed criteria we evaluate. So, as we undertook our analysis, which was conducted through product documentation review, product demonstrations, trial testing, and personal knowledge, we initially compared these solutions against these factors. And each of these factors were scored specifically. And you can see here they include ease of implementation, configurability, reputation of the developer, the price, product support, accuracy, mobility, ease of use. That's a biggie. In fact, here they are specifically. Now, this comes not from our comparison of these apps, but rather from the data we collect during the top 100 process. We ask you specifically to tell us what you think is most important when looking at apps. What do you look for? And this is the data you have told us that first and foremost, reputation is important. That really surprised me, but developer reputation. And traditionally, you hear that from other pro advisors. Then ease of use comes next. Um, Accuracy is key, as is the ability to automate and the support. But also, right up there near the top is ease of use. Overall, these factors rank 8.51. That's the average rating for all 9 factors. So keep that in mind when we look at these individual apps. And so we're going to ask you a polling question now, and that's number 2 for CPE purposes. We want to know what you think are the 3 most critical of these 9 comparative factors. So check the 3 that you feel are most important. What do you use when you're comparing apps? Accuracy, integration, configurability, ease of implementation, price, reputation, support. And we're going to give you just another few seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And let's close the poll and look at the results. So accuracy is very important. And ranks second, or ranks actually the first. Ease of use is secondly most important. On down the line is support, and then we have price, and I'm going to scroll this up. Now, surprisingly, you all only rank developer reputation 9%, which is contrary to what the 2024 Pro Advisor rankings were from all of the people who participated in the top 100 process. Let's go ahead and close that and move on. And so once again, these are actually now the 6 that we will look at. And you'll notice that I've put this little caveat that Dropsuite is now part of Ninja One. And with that, let's look at Dropsuite. Dropsuite's QuickBooks Online Backup offers secure, continuous, on-demand backup of over 40 objects for quick and easy restoration. For QuickBooks Online Backup, the system performs a continuous backup, meaning that data backs up every time a change is made. Dropsuite has 4 options for manual backup of your QuickBooks data from Intuit servers. And all the data downloaded is available to you in a CSV format. To download the entire company file, you can go to the Dropboard dashboard and simply select the company you want to download, and it'll generate a CSV of all that data in that file. That makes replication a process uh, because you can copy that data from one source file into another. And you can restore copies of your backup data from Dropsuite to QBO. Now on this slide, the chart on the left represents this app's features and functions, while the chart on the right represents the QBO data that this app can back up and restore. Take notice that Dropsuite offers almost every feature and function in our list, and also can back up and restore almost every object Intuit makes available to third-party developers. So from a pro and con standpoint, one-click download and restore replication is available from Dropsuite. Automated and continuous backups, as well as various manual backups. Individual QBO object backup allows for business analysis of specific data. And you can restore an entire QBO file, including attachments or a single object, directly to QuickBooks Online. It is not, though, presently listed in the Intuit QuickBooks Online App Store. And pricing is per QBO file, but may be negotiable if you have a large number of files. Now let's talk about Redstore just a moment, and that's the one that I had highlighted in red. Once again, they were providing backup services 11 months ago, even to new QBO subscribers. But they quit offering backup of QBO, although they are still backing up those people who had active subscriptions. SaaS Assure. SaaS Assure provides multi-tenant support that increases backup and recovery efficiency of QBO data. Let me just tell you, they're really designed for companies who want to be backup companies. If you're in the business of trying to find a new niche, this might be the niche for you. You can actually become a backup company to back up any and everybody's QBO SaaS file. Redstore simplifies QBO data protection by MSPs with a modern design to enhance efficiency in handling backup and recovery for multiple clients while providing increased security. Client-specific dashboards allow the MSP administrators to monitor backups and to perform recoveries by client. That means that MSPs can rely on SaaS Assure to maintain seamless operations, whether you have one QBO file to back up or 1,000 QBO files to back up. They also offer flexible storage, which is different than almost every other backup here. You can have your data that you back up through SaaS Assured stored on any number of servers that are available. That's important if you're dealing with people who have a country compliance requirement that their data can't go out of a certain country or certain region. And it also provides for multi-person approval before data is either changed or removed. So it's got this built-in control, again, where you have a supervisor who's supervising perhaps two or three people who are responsible for backing up maybe hundreds of companies. Once again, the chart on the left represents the app's features and functions. And you'll see again that it performs almost all of the features we measured and examined, but some of them are specific to the plan you subscribe to with SaaS Assured. And you'll also see that they back up almost every specific piece of data that Intuit makes available to third-party developers. Now, forgot to mention, it is designed and priced for providers wanting or needing to back up other people's QBO files for them. It is not listed in the QBO App Store, and it is priced um, on a per file, per user basis. Rewind. Now, Rewind is presently the only app that's listed in the QBO App Store. It's also, even though there weren't very many people today telling us they were using Rewind, we know once again from our top 100 data and also from the last app comparison that Rewind is the most commonly used third-party uh, backup solution. It's easy to use, and we'll see that uh, it covers almost every single piece of data that Intuit makes available, and it also provides every single function and feature. Now, they automatically back up your QBO data every 24 hours. They also incorporate real-time automatic backup, and they have optional on-demand backup whenever you choose. They offer both granular level or full file restoration, right down to individual transactions or data elements. And you can back up and restore 10 plus QBO list types and 15 transaction types. As I mentioned, uh, those are what is made available from Intuit. It does tend to be slightly more expensive than some of the other backups we'll look at, and we will look at pricing for all of our apps today and compare that pricing side by side. Uh, but it is based on number of files and number of users. Safety Net was the very first backup app for QuickBooks Online. It was initially developed by Jobber during the 2014 QuickBooks Connect hackathon. So, 11 years ago, it was the one hackathon entry that was accepted by everybody, and it very soon became a beta test backup for QBO users. Now, it was technically phased out in 2016 because the developers who had worked on the project had all moved away from Jobber, but not long thereafter it was purchased by Jungle Disk, which began updating it to the most current at the time QBO API. Now, it is intended to provide a safe, secure, and reliable backup for anyone who is using a QBO file. You can fetch data from QBO subscriptions and create the backup very easily. And you can, with the professional version, retain as many archives as you wish, allowing you to keep a history. But they have a free version, which basically is you back up and then you back up again and then you back up the third time and the first backup's gone unless you have some way of placing it somewhere else. Uh, on the left, you'll see that they back up automatically every day. They do optional on-demand snapshots of your data that let you say, oh, well, something's going on. I'm going to take a snapshot of my data right now and make sure I have it on file. But again, you want to make sure that if you're doing that, you've got that professional version where you can keep every single backup. And unfortunately, because they are slow to respond and they don't really charge hardly anything for this, even the professional version, they don't keep it quite as well up to date. Uh, it used to be in the QBO App Store, but it also is no longer listed. Skivia is a Microsoft based uh, cloud solution to do all kinds of data activities. And you'll find them listed in the QBO App Store. The funny part about it is in their list, they mention all of these other data related activities they perform, but they don't mention that they actually perform QBO backups. That's really weird for being listed in the QBO App Store, not listing that you do QBO backups. But they still do QBO app ups. Your data is hosted in the Microsoft Azure cloud for security, compliance, and redundancy. It is a much more robust backup facility. I found that when I tested it, that it was the fastest of all of them for the same file. And with Skivia, you can back up uh, not only QBO, but really almost any of your other cloud apps. They're designed to be a multiple SaaS uh, application solution. And as I said, they offer other data related activities like moving and migrating data between different SaaS uh, apps. Once again, the chart on the left represents the features and functions, and the chart on the right is the QBO data. And in most instances, they back up all the data that's available. There's one particular thing that I found that was odd. Um, they don't back up customer type. Um, and they don't back up recurring transactions or sales orders. Now, that could have changed in just, you know, the last 30 days, but that's the way it was when we checked all of this over again. They perform an automatic backup daily. They also have anytime manual backups with a click of a button. And they, as I said, were the fastest of any of the solutions that I tested. They also are the most expensive of the backup apps in this review, and their pricing is based on the number of files and number of users. SysCloud, uh, even QuickBooks Online that has a user uh, backup states that the only QB SKU let me start over with that. QuickBooks Online Advanced includes a user backup. It is the only QuickBooks SKU to do so. And it advises users that their backup cannot restore all QBO data to a previous point in time. On the other hand, SysCloud offers automated continuous backup, ensuring that the data is securely backed up and available for recovery at any point in time. SysCloud lets users back up multiple companies on the QBO platform directly to their cloud. They automate the backup process, and their solution backs up multiple versions of your QBO data so that you can restore that data at any point in time. They do incorporate automatic daily backups and manual backups, and they support full text search capabilities to locate key objects within any of the backup files. so that you can then restore only that object if you wish. We've been looking at the app by app features and functions. Now, what we want to do is put those side by side. And so here's that list that had been on the left of every one of the apps we looked at. And you can now look at it side by side. So this makes it real easy for you to determine which of the apps performs this feature or function, which of them don't, which of them are plan dependent, which of them may be cost dependent, and which of them meet compliance requirements. Once again, this data will be included in the PDF of today's PowerPoint presentation. Now, this slide puts together the data that had been on the right side of each of our app comparisons. So we're now looking at the list of all of the data that Intuit allows third-party apps to access and back up. And you can quickly see here those which back up everything, those which back up most things, those which back up fewer things, and those which back up the least number of things. And so at this point, we're going to open the third poll. Now, we're asking you to tell us what you think the most important backup methodology is. We talked about several of these, and there's a comprehensive backup. There's a scheduled backup set by the developer. There's scheduled backups for those apps that offer self-scheduled. There's continuous incremental backup, which means the moment you make a change, it creates a change in the data that's stored as the backup. Then there's manual backup, where you just simply get to go click of a button and make a backup. And then there's the ability to individually back up specific objects. So which of these do you think, and we only want you to select one as the most important to you? And so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go ahead and close that poll and look at the results. So most of you prefer continuous incremental backup, as opposed to second most important is a comprehensive backup. Nobody chose the ability to back up individual objects within the file. For example, a specific invoice or a specific customer or a specific payment. Schedule backups by the developer are least important, and then schedule backups that you can set the schedule was next. That's good news. Okay. Now, when our research was compiled for price, each of the backups in our comparison was checked for the current advertised price. Regardless of the number of pricing subscription plans available, we chose to provide pricing on each app's lowest, medium, and high cost plans and the most typical cost. All prices reflect monthly cost, not yearly. A composite, except where noted. A composite of each app's pricing plans are used to score the apps on our 10-point scale when we talk about price. Scores are determined in reverse order. The lower price an app, the higher it ranks on our scale. The higher price an app, the lower it ranks on our scale. Those results are shown in the graphic on the next slide, along with the other comparison factors. So, Dropsuite, for example, the high end of their price is $4.95, but their most typical cost is $4.50 per month. Rewind, $16 per month. Remember, this is per user, per file. SAS Assure, $3 minimum cost, $4.30 is their typical cost. And Safety Net, well, they have that free version available that doesn't keep but a couple of backups. And then they have the paid professional version, $5, which essentially is unlimited backups. Then Skivia, they don't have a true minimum version. Their medium cost is $7 per user per plan, but it goes up to $399 per user. Okay. Their typical is $79. And SysCloud 316, a typical plan is $20. And so you can look at that and consider what fits your budget. Now let's throw those figures according to the scale that I reported to you about price, remembering that a higher number for price in this factor means that it's actually a lower price, and a lower number for price is a higher actual price. And then the rest of these are our comparison factors on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the best and 1 is the worst. And so you can see here then that when we take all that data and we average it together, Dropsuite had a score of 8.1, Rewind 7.7, SAS Assured 6.9, Safety Net 5.8, Skivia 6.2. Price really brought them down, and SysCloud 5.8. SysCloud really has kind of a more complex implementation than any of the others. That's why it's rated only a 5. Safety Net, it's it's difficult to implement because it doesn't really do everything you want it to do. And Their reputation was a 7, as was SysCloud. Uh, it's because people really haven't heard of them too well. They don't have many comments, they don't have many reviews. Even though Safety Net was the original one, it's changed hands so many times. People are unsure about it. And as I said, it doesn't tend to stay up to par as quickly as some of the others. Rewind has the best reputation, in part because it's the only one listed, so it's the one most people use, it's the one most people review. Um, and Because SAS Assured also backs up, like Skivia, almost any kind of a SaaS app, not just QBO, they have a great reputation, even though they just, within the last 10 months or so, started really offering QBO backup. Dropsuite, I think at the last time had undergone or was actually a 10 for reputation, but because they underwent that change of ownership, that gave them a drop down of 1 point. Because you never know when somebody starts changing from one hand to the next, how long they're going to be around. Now, here they are, and graphically, you can again see the same data that we just had on the previous slide. The average of all of our backups is 6.74, and this is And the average ranking of importance. Now remember, we said that if you took all of those same comparative factors, when we asked the top 100 what's most important, it turned out to be 8.51. But when we actually compare them for these backups apps, you'll see that nobody even comes close to this 8.51. DropSuite's 8.1, and the overall 6.74, though. So that's quite a difference between what your expectations are for any kind of an app based on our 9 criteria versus this group of backup apps. And so, lastly, we're now going to ask you to identify one of these six that you would like to explore more information about. And I think we've got actually 7 of those. So please don't mark Red Store because you're not going to get any information from the Red Store or about Red Store. It might be when I created this poll, I forgot to strike through Red Store. So we're talking about DropSuite, Rewind, SaaS Assure, Safety Net, Skivia, and SysCloud. Or if you don't want any hear any more about any of these, just click none of the above. And we won't take time to look at that. So let's go ahead and close that poll. We don't need to see it, but it appears DropSuite is most prevalent. So okay. We'll close that. And I've got an announcement, and then I'm going to try to take some of the Q&A if I can find my Q&A panel, because for some reason it's disappeared and I cannot find it anywhere. There it is. Okay. So Friday, I will be conducting a webinar on preparing for the 2026 Top Advisor Awards. And we'll be opening those before the 20th of this month. That's what I'm going to say. Before the 20th of this month, or before the last third of this month, we're going to open the 2026 Top Advisor Awards. And we have 4 groups this year: the top 100 pro advisors from the United States, the top 50 international pro advisors from around the world, the top 25 up and coming pro advisors, and we just launched for this year a new top 25 tax advisors based on the Intuit tax certifications they're offering under the Intuit Academy, not the Pro Advisor Academy, but the what they just call Intuit Academy. And so let's see, can Murph talk about the QBO Advanced Backup? Well, in effect, the QBO Advanced Backup, as I understand it, is the same thing as DropSuite. It started out under another name, and it was really successful. Rewind had just barely gotten started. And so then Intuit decided to acquire that solution. For a while, they had it in the App Store and were letting people sign up. Then they took it out of the App Store because they primarily wanted to offer it to QBO Advanced. And it's also my understanding that that is what is included in the as the backup for Intuit Enterprise Suite. I could be wrong about that, but that's my understanding. Somebody raised their hand, and I don't even see necessarily where that is. Okay. Uh, then do you know what the advantages are to becoming a Dropsuite partner? My understanding is that they allow you to market their product for, I believe, a discount. And that's pretty much all I understand. Would you recommend any of these solutions to have a backup saved when a company closes? Well, what you definitely want to have is one of the solutions that allows you to export that backup data that came from QBO into an alternate format. And we list for you those that have the ability to produce alternate file types. That's listed in our list of features and functions. We don't specify what file type, but just that you can export the data to alternatives, which generally means you're exporting it into Excel as one of the types of files that Excel will read, typically CSV. Um, when you say per file, is that per company? Yes, per company file uh, is what I'm talking about. And can you describe what a restore would look like with QuickBooks Desktop? Uh, you just create a new file. How would you restore it if you had a major problem? So, if you have one of the backup solutions that will do restore, it actually will overwrite your existing QuickBooks Online file with that data. It doesn't replicate and it doesn't require you to take out a new subscription and then write back to it. It allows you to actually replicate over. Um, is payroll backed up anywhere? Where else is okay? So the answer to that is no. Um, and most people who have QBO backup, sorry, most people have QBO use QBO payroll, and QBO payroll is entirely separate. It's much the way that Intuit started with QuickBooks Desktop. They used to have QuickBooks Desktop as an app and QuickBooks Payroll as an app, and then they had an overlap where the interface worked together, but they were actually writing data into separate files. Then at some point, they started combining that data into one file. Well, when you have QBO backup, that's an entirely separate data file of an entirely separate data structure. And the only thing that is synonymous is the um, the only thing that's synonymous is the interface, which essentially is an app within an app. So that I know of presently, there's no way. However, my understanding is that QuickBooks Online Payroll has the ability to restore payroll data at least to the prior payroll. They don't like doing that, but they can, is my understanding. Um, and I'm going to say one thing beyond that. I actually had a client that we had to restore their entire payroll for a year, and they were able to do that and actually attach it to a separate QuickBooks Online file. So I'd forgotten that they did that, but that was online payroll. Um, Somebody says that DropSuite has recently quoted $10 a month. Well, guess they've had a price increase. Um, any recommendations for Pro Connect? No, I'm not sure that anybody's building anything for Pro Connect to back it up. Um, That's interesting thought. Maybe we need to do some research. And is QBO accountant data backed up? All right. So, uh, well, it's backed up in exactly the same way any other QBO SKU is backed up. And even though they tell us that your file as QBO accountant, your your actual file for you yourself is a QBO advanced file. Um, I have yet to find where the backup is in it that's associated with QBO advanced. That's not to say that it's not there because I don't use QBO for my own company file, and I only use QBO Accountant uh, for dealing with other QBO client files, and few of those other than what I use for testing. So I really can't answer that. But if it is, it will only be your actual accounting company file within QBO Accountant. It won't be the data you have relative to your clients in QBO Accountant. What else is not available to a third party backup provider? Well, let's go back and we'll show you. And it's not that it's, well, some of it is that it's not available. So look at what is available. Uh, Accounts, budgets, classes, currency, customers, customer type, departments, employees, items, journal code, pay methods, tax code, tax class, tax agency, terms, and vendors. Then transaction types. Here they are all listed. And then there's these other little goodies down here that mean different things like exchange rates. If you're doing multi currency, that's important uh, from both a current and historical standpoint because it's how the actual rate is preserved and is computed for preservation within the transaction record. Um, Entitlement is your licensing data. Company information is just that, the information you put in about the company itself. And you'll see that some of these things, these are all available, but some of these companies don't back that data up for one reason or another. Many of them don't back up attachments. Um, and so, because typically they're stored actually in a companion file. Um, it, and it's a whole series of links. So that's why. Now, are there other data objects in your current QBO file that are not in this list? Absolutely. But this is the list of what Intuit makes available. And they can't back up anything that Intuit doesn't make available. So, uh, for example, you don't see tags on here. And the reason is Intuit's been very, very slow in the last 2 or 3 years. They're very, very quick about making changes to QBO, making enhancements to QBO, offering new things uh, within QBO, but they're relatively slow about changing the API to make those things available. Then they do things like, oh, let's have tags. Oh, now we're not going to have tags. Oh, let's have more classes, but actually they're in a different data field uh, that they migrated classes into, um, things like that. And so, yes, there is data that even if you do a complete restoration, even outside of payroll, you're still going to be missing because that data simply isn't available in the API. Um, then I imagine most of the prices will go up with the new pricing for the developers program. And one of the reasons that a lot of these apps are um, not listed in the App Store is because they don't want to pay what it costs to be in the developers program. And to have their app go through, in effect, uh, independent review and approval, etc. That doesn't keep a developer though from being able to pull down the API, build an app that's API compliant, and then release it and go out and do its thing. Thanks for asking that, Angela. Um, and I think we have covered. Uh, I think we've covered all of these. I said no, cancel. Yeah, I think we've covered all of those open questions. So, does anybody else have any other questions? All right. So once again, I want to remind you that on Friday at 12 o'clock Central Time, I will be preparing for the 2026 Top Advisor Awards. We'll have some common sense discussion about how to put your best foot forward when you fill out your application. We'll also talk about some of the streamlining and enhancements to this year's application form, especially for people who have submitted applications in the last 2 years, where you'll have the choice of using some of that data rather than having to complete the same old data over and over again in the application form. And so we think you'll get a lot out of Friday's webinar, 12 o'clock Central Time, Friday. And if you signed up for Future Forward, then you should get the notice because it's still part of Future Forward. Um, and Chon Baum said, I didn't see polling number 4. Well, if you answered the other 3, you're still good because you only had to answer 3 out of the 4 polling questions. The fourth one was, which one of the apps do you want to learn more about? And and uh, hmm, that says DropSuite says they're primarily a Microsoft 365. Well, they certainly do advertise that they are a QBO backup solution. So, okay, and with that, I think we're down to the last 3 seconds. So I'm going to tell everybody goodbye and I appreciate you all being here.